How do I look? How do you look? And how does the difference between how men and women experience the world get reflected in the pictures they take? And what about the pictures that are used for advertising? As the well-known critic John Berger said, men act and women appear. Men look at women, but women watch themselves being looked at. See, this image shows my reflection in a woman's eye. It's a close-up, so you can see me reflected, a female photographer. But for around 90% of the images which blanket our media landscape, from billboards to magazine covers, if you could see the reflection in the subject's eyes, you would see the silhouette of a man, a male photographer. What that means is that almost all of the images that we see are filtered through a man's lens, from his point of view. About a dozen years ago, I became pretty famous, or infamous, depending on how you look at it, because of these pictures of crying toddlers. Everyone from Diane Sawyer to Bill O'Reilly wanted to know how I made the babies cry. Who knew that it was even newsworthy that kids cry? The backstory was that the toddlers' mothers were with me in the studio, giving and then requesting back the lollipops. I was there to capture their reaction. So the series would also become the Great Lollipop Debate. And I was the female photographer who made the kids cry. The editor of the London Sunday Times said that in his 20 years at the magazine, it was this story that got the most letters ever. It was controversial, and the internet blew up. And ironically, it was also this series that launched a look and a photographic style that's now imitated and taught in art and photography schools all over the world. It's called the Jill Greenberg look. On Instagram, I get tagged, "Today we did the Jill Greenberg lighting assignment." Weird, right? But I've been at this for a while, photographing everything from monkeys to celebrities. I've shot commercial campaigns and created fine art, which shows in galleries around the world. But about 10 years ago, after close to 2 decades in the business, I realized that I might have hit the glass ceiling when I noticed that men were getting the jobs to shoot in my signature style. So I asked my photo agents what was going on. They said, "Oh, that TV network's a boys' club, and that movie studio's a boys' club, and even that magazine's a boys' club," which all sounds sort of cute, but what that actually means is those clients don't hire women. That's right, commercial photography is still perceived to be a man's job. Now let's be clear, this is not a pipeline issue. There are far more women graduating from art and photography programs all over the world. Women make up about 80% of all students in these programs. And yet in the real world of commercial photography, women are not getting the same opportunities. Over the past few years, much has been made about the gender discrimination in the film business. And back in 2015, the New York Times Magazine ran a cover story about the deeply rooted bias in Hollywood. For the piece, dozens of women were photographed, all by one man. The irony is mind-blowing. For this New York Times Magazine story, an expose on the gender inequality in motion pictures, they hired a man to shoot the pictures. And what's even more extraordinary is that it was a team of female photo editors who chose the man to shoot this story on sexism. And this is what happens time and again. All these Me Too and Lean In stories, the Women of the Year, they all get lensed by men. Even Oprah, the queen of female empowerment, believe it or not, for 5 straight years, from 2013 to 2017, hired 0 women photographers, all men. At Time magazine, during that same time period, 7 out of 59 covers featuring celebrity portraits were shot by women only. So why should we all care? Because those who are paid to create the images which shape our culture have real power. Here's a dirty little secret about what photographers do. We create image propaganda. Commercial photographers direct, pose, frame, and edit one image out of hundreds, even thousands. We choose the casting, wardrobe, hair and makeup, and click the shutter capturing the exactly 1/500th of a second of an already idealized moment. And we decide which one is best. Each subtle decision affects how powerful the image is. And it's how we get you to see movies, buy products, and believe the messaging that we're tasked with working on. So what happens when our views of the world are shaped by only a male lens? Obviously, then, we're only getting the perspective and the biases of half the population, since almost every image we are surrounded by has been filtered through a man's eye and a man's mind. Let that sink in. Just as importantly, though, this is discrimination that most don't realize, because the idea that women are being discriminated against in a creative industry feels so retro and illogical. Something's amiss when networks for women, television networks for women, and you know which ones I'm talking about, only hire men to shoot the advertising, despite many talented women being available. Movie studios, cable networks, and streaming networks too, pass over women photographers for these big and prestigious advertising jobs. And the same thing goes with consumer advertising campaigns. And yet it's women who make up 85% of all purchases. We are the deciders. We primarily choose what car to buy and what movie to see. And yet men are shooting the marketing for almost all of this. So it's no wonder that 91% of women say the advertisers don't understand them. We must blow up and reimagine these outdated stereotypes. Stereotypes which were created to make the advertiser's job simpler. A few years ago, I created this glass ceiling series. These were photographs that highlighted the absurdity of it all. Professional synchronized swimmers wearing heels, the heels that they and many women wear to work. The corsets may be gone, but the glass ceiling persists in the form of so many biases. So how do we bust through these barriers? How do we ensure that the images that we see and the propaganda that's created is diverse and doesn't exclude more than half the planet? We make sure that women are taking half the pictures. So in January of this year, I launched a site called alreadymade.org. It's a list of vetted and capable women photographers who can shoot these advertising campaigns, magazine covers, and movie and TV key art. There are no more excuses for not being able to find capable women photographers. I made a list. Time's up on gender discrimination, iniquity, and condescension. It's not enough to have a panel or a hashtag. Now is the time to take back the gaze, to take back the workplace, and to take back the cultural narrative from the men who have controlled it for hundreds of years, giving female photographers the ability to make a living and manipulate you too, just like men. Thank you.